Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're going to be making my mama's onion rings. Now, of course, to make onion rings you have to have onions. And you use sweet onions for onion rings, and the very best sweet onions are Vidalia onions. They're grown in central Georgia, pretty near where I went to high school at, as a matter of fact. And they are shipped all over the United States, maybe even all over the world. If you can't get Vidalia onions, any sweet onion will work, but like I said, Vidalia onions are best. These little manual slicers are really good for keeping your onion slices even. You don't have to have one, but you want to slice your onions about 1/4 of an inch thick. And these will keep them at 1/4 of an inch thick. It makes it easy, and it's safer, of course, than using a knife. These are not too expensive. You might want to check them out. Now, the ingredients I have here will do 2 onions about this size, or 1 great big onion. I did one the other day. It was probably this big around, and this many ingredients did it fairly well. I mean, you know, it covered everything. I didn't have a whole lot left over, but it will do 2 onions this size. Now, after you slice your onions, you want to separate all your onion rings, and pieces toward the bottom end like this really aren't good for making onion rings, and you do have to take a little bit out of the center because they're not rings. But you don't have much here, and you can save this and throw it in some fried taters or something. Now, people are doing all sorts of things to onion rings to make them crunchy. Crunchy onion rings have cornstarch in them. Now, people have somehow forgotten that, but cornstarch makes things crunchy if they're fried. It makes French fries crunchy. If you've ever had fast food French fries that have that little crunchy like coating on them, that's cornstarch. So what I've got here is 1/2 cup cornstarch, about 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Now you have to have baking powder in these, and I'm using a full tablespoon of baking powder in this. And you have to have a little salt. I'm using a teaspoon. You can adjust that, but you don't want to go down any less than 1/2 teaspoon, because then your onion rings, the batter won't puff up and it won't rise. And you also need an egg. I season mine. This stuff over here is kind of optional, and you can change it a little bit. If you have fresh buttermilk, use fresh buttermilk. I do not have fresh buttermilk. I recently discovered powdered buttermilk, which keeps much longer, and that way you don't eat so many buttermilk pies that you need a serious diet. But I've got about 3 tablespoons of powdered buttermilk here that I'm just going to add into my dry ingredients, and I'm going to use regular milk. The buttermilk acts with the wheat gluten in the flour, and it really changes the texture of your batter on your onion rings. So I do recommend buttermilk, but if you don't have the dry buttermilk or regular buttermilk, you can use just milk in these. And people do all kinds of stuff to make their batter a little bit sweet. They even add canned sodas and stuff to it, or they add beer to it. Well, I don't drink, so it doesn't make any sense to me to go buy beer to sweeten my onion rings. And I don't like canned sodas. Very unhealthy. I've talked about that before. So just use a tablespoon of sugar. It's not that much, and it gives it that little bit of sweetness that really adds to your onion ring. You don't have to use it, but it does make it better. And I use 1/2 teaspoon of pepper in mine. You can season your batter with pretty much any spice you like, but just a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper I find is plenty. Some people use really, really hot spices. So the first step is you have to coat your onion rings with your dry ingredients. And a Ziploc bag makes this easy. So just dump in all your dry ingredients. Cornstarch and flour and baking powder that I've spilled a lot of. I'm going to try and get just a little bit of that back up. That should do. My salt, my sugar, pepper, and my buttermilk powder. Zip your bag up and give that a good toss. Okay, that should be mixed good enough. Now this step here, what this is going to do, by putting the dry mixture on your onion rings, that's going to keep your batter from pulling off your onion rings when they're cooked. If you've ever had onion rings and you bite them and the whole onion pulls out of the batter and then you're left with just the batter, that's, you know, that's not ideal. It's not good. So by putting the onion rings in here, that flour and stuff sticks to it, and then once we dip them in our batter, it's going to stick to it and they won't pull out. Make sure you get some air in your bag when you close it up, and then just give it a good toss. Alright, now once you've tossed your onion rings in your flour, you just shake off the excess and lay them out on a plate or whatever, because we're going to dump the rest of our dry ingredients in a bowl and add our egg and our milk to it to make the batter. Like I said, this much will do 2 onions the size that I had, or 1 really big onion, and I'm only going to fry 1 of these today because this will do at least 3 servings of onion rings. I think I got all the onion out. Now dump this in your bowl. Alright, and all we're going to do is add our egg and our milk and mix it up a little. Okay, let's take these over to the stove. Now, for the absolute best results, you want to leave your onion rings sitting with this flour on them for at least 15 minutes before you dip them in your batter. Mine probably have not been sitting, well, I know mine have not been sitting 15 minutes, but that's okay. And you want to you have to have some oil to fry these in. Now, you can deep fry them, but if you're going to deep fry them, there's another step. You want to dip them in your batter, then put them on a rack and let them drip, because if you just dip them and then put them in a deep fryer in a basket, they're all going to stick together and you're going to have a big onion ring ball. I'm frying them in a pan, and I'm using grapeseed oil. You are going to eat a lot of this oil, so you do want to pick a pretty healthy oil. I've had my pan on medium for a little while, and you can see it's good and hot. You want to make sure your oil is good and hot, and I only have about 1/4 of an inch of oil in this pan, maybe a little bit more. And you're just going to dip your onion rings 1 at a time, let them drip off a little bit, and add them to your pan. Unless, of course, you're wanting to deep fry them, and if you want to deep fry them, do this, put them on a rack, let them drip until they stop dripping, or you can even freeze them and deep fry them that way. But you can't just take them straight out of this and throw them in a deep fryer, because you'll just have a stuck together mess. Now, it doesn't take very long to fry these. If you're frying them in a pan, it is going to take you a few minutes, of course, because you're dipping them and adding them to the pan 1 at a time. I think of it as one of those foods that takes a little love and patience to prepare. But it doesn't take that long at all. You can see they're already starting to get brown, and you just put them in the pan. You do have to keep an eye on them. You want to slide them around the pan and rotate them so that they don't stick together and so that they don't stick to the pan. And we're pretty much just going to keep them moving until they're all cooked. Because as soon as I get one done, I like to put another one in the pan That keeps my oil from getting too hot and my pan from overheating. Just keep an eye on your pan while you're cooking these, and if your oil does start to get too hot, turn it down a little bit. If you cut your onion rings too thick, your batter's going to get brown and burned before your onion gets cooked and tender. So it is really important not to get the onions too thick. And if the onion doesn't get done, if it's not fully cooked and tender, that's another thing that causes the onion to pull out of the finished onion ring. Okay, letting them sit that 15 minutes really does make a difference. Now I'm getting to that point where mine have been floured for about 15 minutes. And my onion rings are coming out a little puffier, and they're a little bit smoother. Starting with a really hot pan of oil also makes a difference. If you start with your oil hot, it makes the entire cooking process from start to finish faster. I turned my pan on when I first started my cameras. So I probably preheated my oil for at least 5 minutes before I came over here and actually started frying. You do want to give that pan time to get good and hot. Okay, we're almost done with this, and you can see here I could definitely do another onion. I have plenty of batter left. And it doesn't take too awfully long to cook them in a pan. If you want to deep fry them, if you've got time to let them sit on a rack and drip a little bit, or you've got time to put them in a freezer and freeze them before you deep fry them, you can certainly deep fry them, and they're very good that way. I usually just do them in a pan though, because you don't have to do that extra step, and you can keep an eye on each individual onion ring. When you deep fry them, sometimes some of the ones in the bottom start to get too brown, because you can't really flip them without breaking them. You can't stir them up without busting them up. So I prefer a pan when I make them. I even have enough oil here in my pan that I could probably fry the whole other onion over there if I had cut it up. And you're not going to get that with anything other than the grapeseed oil, I don't believe. And that's because the grapeseed oil doesn't soak into your food as much as other oils do, so it doesn't make it as greasy. I had already used some out of this bottle, so I probably did not have half a cup of oil in here. And I bet if I drained it, I would have very close to half a cup of oil when I'm done. It still fries it, you still get that really crisp taste, but it doesn't, the food doesn't soak it up the way it does a lot of other oils, so it doesn't taste real heavy and it doesn't taste real greasy. Besides its nutritional content, that's another good reason to use it. A lot of people who have gallbladder problems and things like that that just can't handle all the grease, grapeseed oil is a really good option. Okay, we can cut our pan off now. And our onion rings are all cooked. And like I said, it doesn't take too long to cook them in a pan. A little longer than it would a deep fryer, but it's much easier to keep them from burning, and it's easier to get them all kind of perfect if you do it in a pan. Now I want to show you, this one's still super hot. This one's been out for a while. It's pretty cold. It's still crunchy, and the onion does not pull out of it. You don't end up with that big bunch of batter. Oh gosh, those are so good. Okay. Don't forget the cornstarch, whatever you do, even if you have a recipe that you like and you like to add something to them, like you're really into the beer batter or you really like the club soda, that's okay. But don't leave the cornstarch out. And a lot of people are doing breadcrumbs to try and keep them crunchy after they get cold. That's not necessary, and it totally changes the texture and it changes the flavor. They don't have that same flavor that an onion ring is supposed to have. Delicious. So give these things a try. Like I said, it's one of those things that just takes a little love and a little extra effort to make. Because so many of you have subscribed to the Hillbilly Kitchen and liked our videos and commented on our videos and watched our videos, we have something to share with you. We have a lot of product developers and marketers who have contacted us and wanted us to try their products. And because there are so many of you, we're able to get extra stuff that we can share with you. So we have a lot of giveaways coming up, and our very first giveaway is from Contempo Home and Kitchen. This is a 10-piece utensil set, and they sell these on Amazon. They are giving you a discount code. The link to these and the discount code will be in the description of this video. I really like these, and they are going on my Christmas list for everybody who cooks. The big thing that I like about these is it is a one-piece handle. And what that does is, like, this is a Farberware spatula. I think these things sell for like $6-8, just this one piece in Walmart. And you can see all over this thing, all this white stuff on this is dishwater that ran out of it when I hung it up over there by the stove. And if you take one of these utensils that hasn't been hanging up, you've just washed it, and you go to stick it in your food, that dishwater runs in your food. And even if it is dry, before I use this, I have to clean that off because that is just yuck. You don't have that with these. The Green Life is the same thing. The dishwater gets up in the handle and it runs out. They're actually a little bit better than the Farberware ones, but it does still get dishwater in it. There's no water that gets trapped in any of these. The whisk, now, it does have holes, obviously, where the wires go up in it. So you do want to drain it really good. But a coated whisk is a necessity in the kitchen if you're using non-stick pans. It will whisk up your gravies and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry about scratching your pan. I had a really hard time finding one of these before I got this set, and I had to buy it individually, and I think it again was like $6. They just get really expensive, and this is a nice one. It's a good size. You can use it in a small pot or in a bigger pan, and it'll take care of both of those. The other thing, these spatulas, this stuff says that it is good up to 480 degrees. It won't melt. They're coated with silicone, and a lot of you commented on my candy stirring spoon. It's a nylon spoon that I use to stir my fudge and stuff with, and it really doesn't look good. It's brown, and it looks like it's about to break at any minute, and I've used it for quite a long time, but I've tried spatulas in my candy before, and I've melted a lot of them trying to make candy, but being that these are good for up to 480 degrees, I can't wait to try this making fudge this Christmas, because it would definitely scrape the sides of the pan better, and it would keep the bottom clear, you know, so you don't get burned stuff in the bottom of your candy pots. But like these, you can't use that for making candy. Not only does it get stuff up inside the head of it because the handle's not one piece, but your candy gets down in there, and then all that stuff that's stuck in there comes out in your candy. The same thing with this one. This one here came from a commercial kitchen supplier, and the handle just, it's not sanitary. It gets nasty stuff in it, and then that gets in your food. So the one-piece handles are a big plus. And the fact that these are coated with silicone, nothing sticks to them. I did the potato pancake video not too long ago, and I did it right before I got these. And if you watch that video, the cheese is sticking all to my nylon spatula, and I had to stop in the middle of making it and scrape the cheese off. Well, if you watch that video, you also know Brett didn't get any of the potato pancakes that had the cheese and the bacon and the peppers and the onions in them, so I had to make him some more. And I did a whole batch with the cheese, and I didn't get any cheese stuck on my spatula with this, so that was really, really nice. They come with a set of tongs, and the tongs are big enough, you know, you can grab a hold of an ear of corn down in a pot of water, or they're small enough that you could even get pasta out of a pot with them if you were testing it to make sure it's done. The tip of them it's grippy, so if you're taking something small or something slick out, you can hold it without crushing it. I do like them, like I said, because they open up pretty wide, and then you have that little bit of grip on the end of them that you don't have even with regular metal uncoated tongs. That's nice. It does have a spaghetti spoon or a pasta spoon. Everybody needs one of those. But like I said, they have a discount code, and I think you can get these for $20 a set with the discount code, or it's pretty close to that on Amazon. And that's only $2 a piece. That's cheaper than the cheapy ones, and they're much better quality. The handles inside of them, I'm pretty sure they're nylon inside, but they're very stiff. Break resistant for sure, if not unbreakable. And the fact that they'll stand up to that 480 degrees means you can use this for candy. So like I said, I'm excited about that. Can't wait to make fudge this Christmas and try this out. Okay, if you would like to win a set of these, we have 3 sets that we will be giving away in July. I will select a winner every Friday for the first 3 weeks of July that will end this drawing on July the 19th. Comment on this video. You have to comment on this video. Start your comment with Contempo, because they're by Contempo Home and Kitchen. That way I know you want to be entered in the drawing. Now you can comment anything you like on the video just after you leave the word Contempo. That way I know that comment is meant to be entered in the drawing. And you do need to subscribe to the channel, like the video. You can leave up to 10 comments, which will give you up to 10 entries. And every week I will post a comment that I lock to the top of the comments, so when you go to the video, it should be the very first comment. You can check to see if you're the winner. I'll also do my best to find your original comment and reply to it once I've selected the winner. So you should get a notification on YouTube that way. And I will put the names of the winners in the description of the video, so you can check the description if you can't find the comment to see if you won. Now, if you're the winner, you do have to reply back and give me your address so I can mail these to you. But check these out. Like I said, they're, for the price, you absolutely cannot beat them. They're less expensive than any of the other utensils that I've got over here. And that one-piece handle it's just great. It's so much cleaner, so much neater, and it's healthier. We appreciate you joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. We really appreciate all the subscribers, everybody who has commented. Share this video for us and help us grow, and we will continue to bring you these giveaways as often as we can, and as many of them as we can, because everybody likes a free gift. Until next time, remember to put God first.